Hello, everyone. Welcome to our August edition of What's Up in the Sky. So today, it'll be Mr. C.K. Lim, Grace, and myself, Dr. Lim, to introduce to you about what's happening in the sky in August 2021. So for this month, we'll organize our What's Up in the Sky program as follows. We'll start off with some interesting monthly highlights, and believe me, they are very interesting, followed by what we can see in the evening sky and what we can see in the morning sky. And we'll end today's program with constellation slash asterism of the month. So without further ado, let's get started. Mr. C.K. Lim, would you like to tell us what are the great and interesting highlights for this month?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Dr. Derek Lim, and thank you for all the viewers that's joining us. We have actually a lot of events coming up with which we would like to show to you. We'd like to share to you. Okay, let's start with the planet first because the month of August is the month of the opposition of the planet. Okay, opposition of the planet. There will be two planets that is coming in closest to the Earth. Okay, which is Saturn and Jupiter. And opposition actually means in the layman term is actually closest, but if the actual term is actually the Earth is between the Sun and the planet itself. So during opposition, for example, on the August the 2nd, Saturn will reach opposition. When the sun setting, Saturn will actually rising up. So you can see Saturn the whole night, especially on the early of the month when it reach opposition. And when it reach opposition, when it's closer to us, it's actually still very far away. Okay, it's about 1.3 billion kilometers, which is roughly translate to be about 74.3 light minutes away. Things to look out for Saturn opposition is one of them. If you have a telescope, of course you would like to see the ring itself. Okay, maybe a telescope which about 60 times magnification, maybe. You should be able to see the ring of Saturn. And during the opposition, a few hours and a few hours before and a few hours after the opposition, there's an effect which we call the Sillinger effect, which is actually the sudden brightening of the Saturn ring itself. Okay, and this one is only visible a few hours and a few hours before and after the opposition time itself. Okay, so other than Saturn, you have Jupiter coming into opposition, which is occurring about 2 weeks later on the 20th of August. We have Jupiter opposition, and Jupiter is actually between the Earth and Saturn itself. It's actually halfway, so it's still far away. The light for the light to reach us from Jupiter, it will take about 33.4 minutes light minute. Okay, and well, if you want to do some crazy challenge, you can try to spot the moon of Jupiter itself. Okay, there are 4 big moon of Jupiter. You can actually see through the telescope easily. But according to some people, they can actually see them with the naked eye itself. One of the challenges you can try on the night of opposition itself is probably trying to spot Callisto. Okay, Callisto is not the brightest moon of Jupiter. It's at magnitude 6, and on the night of Jupiter itself, Callisto is actually slightly far away from Jupiter, so it may be slightly easier for you to see, as it will not be affected by the glare of Jupiter itself.
Hey CK, I noticed a lot of people take the photo of Jupiter and Saturn. Is it due to the opposition?
Yeah, that's a good question actually. During opposition, there are actually a few factors why we can see more photos in the internet. People posted. One of the reasons that during opposition time, we'll have the planet closer, and another bonus is that they will actually appear brighter. So in terms of photography, if something is brighter, then you can have a shorter exposure and you can actually get a nicer image. Okay, so there's a few reasons. One of the few reasons that why you have more photos. You can see people take photos during opposition. Actually, another reason that I can think of is actually during opposition. As I mentioned earlier, the planet actually rises at the sunset, and you can actually see the planet the whole night itself. So you have ample time to take, and most of the time we will actually take the planet or any object in the sky when they are relatively high in the sky. So during opposition, Jupiter and Saturn will probably be high in the sky near our local midnight. So it's a very good time to take the planet, and you have the full, 2 or 3 hours before it cross the overhead and 2 or 3 hours after it cross the overhead. So we have a lot of time during opposition. Okay. So there will be more interesting thing happening on Jupiter itself, but I'm coming back to that. Okay. After I'll tell you about the moon itself. The moon itself, for this month, the new moon will be on the August the 8th. And it's actually very good that the new moon is happening on the August 8th, because on the August 13th, I believe, or 12th, 13th, there will be a Perseid meteor shower, which Dr. Derek Dream will explain more on that. The full moon will be coming 2 days after the Jupiter opposition. And the full moon for this month will be happening on the August 22nd. Okay, now we come back to the Jupiter event itself on the 15th of August. It is a very, very rare event. Okay, very rare event. In fact, I have not seen it before. Okay, I have not seen this before. This is the triple transit itself. So on the August 15th, okay, mark your calendar. It is on the Sunday. There will be extra rare event, what we call a triple conjunction of the Jovian moon, Callisto, Ganymede, and Europa. And at 11:30 p.m., these three planets will be transiting Jupiter at the same time. Okay, the event actually started earlier, much earlier. As Jupiter rises, you have this Callisto already in the middle of Jupiter with the shadow itself. And as Callisto is moving out of Jupiter, Ganymede and Europa will join Callisto. Okay, so start to see them early, but the actual event, the best one will be at 11:30 p.m. And not only that, you will not only see the rare triple conjunction of the moon, the transit, but you will also see another event. Okay, another event, because Ganymede and Europa is actually very close together. They are actually moving very close together, and when they cross each other, Ganymede actually occult Europa. And this is happening at 24. That means Europa is actually going behind Ganymede. Okay, and it will be occulted at 12:24 a.m. Then what happened? After that, when it coming out from Ganymede, it actually goes into the shadow of Ganymede. Okay, can you understand that? It's a very, very, how to say? It's an event inside an event. So we have the video. Okay, try to see the video if you want to get more idea of it. So it will be very interesting to see this event, because I think it's a very rare event. I have not seen it. I don't know anybody in Malaysia seen it before. What we hope that we have a good weather on that night. Okay, this is an event that we'll try not to miss. Okay. So I think, yeah, that's all from my side, and I think Grace will share something else with you. Okay, Grace.
Okay, thank you, CK Lim. Wow, there's a lot of interesting event happen in August, especially the triple transit event of Jupiter. So now I'm going to share with you all about the evening sky. Okay, we start off the month with Venus shining brightly high in the evening sky in the west, right after sunset. Venus will be our beautiful evening star for the entire month of August. The Milky Way arches across the sky right after sunset, with the galactic core high in the south. Since the moon is near the third quarter phase at the beginning of the month, the early evening in early August is a good time for astrophotographers to capture the glory of the galactic core of the Milky Way. Okay, the next one will be the moon meets Venus on the evening of August 11. They will be about 3 degrees or 6 months width apart. They meet in the constellation of Virgo. The moon will be 9.6% illuminated, so we might be able to capture Earth shine, which is known as Da Vinci glow as well. So on August 20 to 22nd, moon dance with Jupiter and Saturn. The moon will be near Saturn and Jupiter in the constellation of Capricorn, a nice photo op. That's all for my part. I will pass it to Dr. Lim to talk about morning sky.
Thank you, Grace. So I think that, yeah, this month the main highlights will be Jupiter and Saturn, which CK Lim has discussed. So the rest of the evening sky is mainly, more for astrophotography and, of course, catching those fascinating Jupiter transits and occultations and whatnot that CK Lim described. Okay, so for early morning risers, okay, the moon begins the month of August 2021 in its last quarter phase. So if you're up at about 5:30 a.m., 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m., 6 a.m., okay, you see the moon at its last quarter phase, and Jupiter and Saturn are in the west, okay, getting ready to set. This is at the beginning of August. As the month progresses, Jupiter and Saturn will get lower and lower in the west at the same time in the morning. Okay. If you look to the east, you will see the winter constellations of Taurus, Auriga, Orion, and Canis Major. Okay, they will be rising before sunrise. After the 6th of August, which is an estimate, okay, we will be able to see the winter triangle stars of Betelgeuse, Sirius, and Procyon. Okay, they rise in the east before the dawn. So that is also a potential interesting photo op. On August the 3rd, a 27.9% illuminated moon will be positioned right between the Hades and the Pleiades in the constellation of Taurus. Okay, so the Hades is kind of like a V-shaped grouping of stars in the constellation of Taurus, and the Pleiades is more popularly known as the Seven Sisters, and the moon will be sort of in between them, closer to the Hades. Okay, interesting photo op. The scene will repeat itself again on August the 30th. Okay, but with the moon now in its last quarter phase. So the last quarter moon or third quarter occurs on August the 30th, and you will be positioned right in between the Hades and the Pleiades again. Okay, so if you are interested in these kind of starscapes with the moon, do give this very beautiful view a try. And on August the 13th, it is worth to set your alarm a little bit earlier. Okay, if you get up at just before 3 a.m., maybe 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m., okay, you can start seeing quite a few meteors in the sky if it's clear, and if you are viewing from a dark sky. Okay, what it is the Perseid meteor shower that CK Lim was talking about. And with the moon out of the way, we'll have a very nice view. Okay, so the sky should be dark. If it's clear, we will be able to see about 100 meteors, up to 100 meteors per hour. Okay, and the peak of the meteor shower occurs at about 3 a.m. Malaysian time. Okay, in fact, the meteor shower is a remnant from the comet 109P Swift-Tuttle. So what happens is this comet, as it goes around the sun, there's dust particles left behind, and the Earth crosses this comet's orbit, and the dust particles fall into the Earth, hit the Earth actually, right at about the position of the constellation of Perseus. And so we will see meteors seemingly coming out of the constellation Perseus, and hence the name, the Perseid meteor shower. Okay, and one characteristic about this Perseid meteor shower, because the average meteor velocity is about 59 kilometers per second, and that's counted as about average. Okay, not very fast and not very slow, but not very fast. So the meteor particles are traveling a bit slower, and they are also, they have some size. So probably about the size of a grain of a sand. Okay, and you believe it or not, this grain of sand can be pretty spectacular when it comes into the Earth's atmosphere. So the Perseid meteor shower is famous for the fireballs that we can see. Okay, so don't miss this meteor shower. Okay, plan ahead of time and pray for clear skies. Okay, and don't miss it.
Hi, Derek. Can you tell us what is the best time to observe Perseid meteor shower?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. So I did mention that the peak of the Perseid meteor shower is at about 3 a.m. But you would want to definitely prepare ahead. Go to a very dark sky location. Okay, so a location with dark skies, and the constellation of Perseus rises in the early morning. I can't remember what time. I think maybe 1 a.m. And it rises in the east, northeast actually. So you would want to face towards the northeast to the radiant point, which is the point in the sky where the meteor kind of flies out of. Okay, and but actually you would be able to see meteors all over the sky. Okay, but for preparation, so when you go to the dark side, bring a comfortable chair. Do you need binoculars? No, just use your naked eye. Okay, you don't bring some hot chocolate, hot coffee, hot teh tarik, and just sit back in the chair and enjoy the view. And don't get caught by the police for MCO violation. And with that, that will be pretty much all the stuff we can, the interesting alignments and views, okay, for the morning sky in August. So I will continue to talk about the constellation of the month, constellation or asterism of the month. So for the month of August, our asterism of the month, asterism meaning a grouping of stars, not a constellation. Okay, so a grouping of stars, and it's random. All right, it will be the summer triangle. Okay, so the summer triangle is formed by 3 bright stars, and it's basically visible early in the evening, rising in the east. Okay, and it rises earlier and earlier, so it get higher and higher in the evening as the month progresses. Okay, and the summer triangle is formed by the 3 bright stars of Vega, Altair, and Deneb. Okay, Altair we can pronounce as Altair because there's an Arabic origin to the name. Okay, Vega is the brightest star in the constellation of Lyra. Altair is the brightest star in the constellation of Aquila, and Deneb is the brightest star in the constellation of Cygnus. Okay, Lyra is the lyre, a musical instrument like a mini harp, portable harp. Okay, Aquila is an eagle, and Cygnus is a swan. So there are more than these three constellations within the Summer Triangle. Okay, so there's also the constellation of Sagitta, which is an arrow, and Vulpecula, which is a fox, right? And together, all these constellations offer a lot of interesting views. Okay, so and one very characteristic feature of the Summer Triangle, okay, which if you have observed, you would know, but if you haven't, definitely go to a dark sky and look. The Milky Way arches across the Summer Triangle. So what you do is if you take a pair of binoculars to scan around the Summer Triangle area, you will just stumble upon many, many thousands of stars, clusters of stars, and maybe if you're lucky, you would stumble upon some nebula, some interesting objects, okay? Now, among the interesting objects in the Summer Triangle, okay, one of the most famous one is the coat hanger cluster. So you have to see this cluster to really believe it. It is genuinely shaped like a coat hanger. Okay, and this coat hanger cluster has several names. There's one Brockie's cluster or Colander 399. Okay, and nearby the coat hanger cluster is a planetary nebula, which is remnants of a dying star. When a star at the end of its life, it explodes and puff out the core of material that surrounds the core, okay, leaving a white dwarf or a neutron star or possibly a black hole. So in this case, the material is ejected out, forming a planetary nebula, and the material actually is glowing due to collision and also heat. We can see this material as a nebula, and it looks like a dumbbell. It's shaped like a dumbbell, so people called it the dumbbell nebula. So if you're a weightlifter, you might particularly enjoy this nebula, right? It's also designated M27, or the 27th entry in the Messier catalog. Okay, and if we scan over to Cygnus, probably not very prominently visible in binoculars, but if you have a camera, especially a camera that is sensitive to hydrogen alpha emissions, okay, red emission, maybe even an infrared camera, aim it towards the constellation of Cygnus, because there are two very interesting objects that are pretty bright to be easily captured in camera. The Gamma Cygni Nebula, IC 1318, okay, IC standing for the Index Catalog of Deep Sky Objects Nebulas, I think nebulas, and the North American Nebula, NGC 7000, the New General Catalog, the 7000th entry in there, okay, and of course, the Summer Triangle, these are merely the highlights that we would like to point out to you. There are tons and tons of many objects, other objects. There's the Ring Nebula I did mention in Lyra. There's also several globular clusters around, M71 in Sagitta. So I would leave it to you to explore this on your own and try to discover for yourself all the splendors in the Summer Triangle. Yeah. Okay, so a very interesting month ahead in August. I hope that all of us have clear skies. And to the viewers of our program, thank you very much for your attention. We hope our program brought you a lot of helpful information for your adventure in astronomy. Please do like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't, and continue to follow all our content that we are continually putting our hard work to deliver to you. So thank you again, and we'll see you next month. Take care. Clear skies.